The corridors were hell. Scourge creatures moved through the station like living nightmares. They were different sizes, different shapes, all of them wrong. Some crawled on too many legs. Some flew on membrane wings. All of them hunted. Hannah moved through the chaos with the rifle at her shoulder. She had learned to fight the Scourge on Terraform Colony. She knew their patterns. They hunted by movement and heat. They communicated through chemical signals. They were fast, but they were predictable if you understood them. A creature dropped from a ceiling vent ahead of her. It was all teeth and claws and hunger. Hannah didn't hesitate. She fired 3 shots head, center mass, head again. The creature fell, twitching. She stepped over it without breaking stride. Behind her, she heard someone cry out. A civilian had been hiding in a side room and was now being chased by 2 more creatures. Hannah spun, fired, dropped both. The civilian, a young Varathi, stared at her in shock. "Get to the nearest safe room and seal the door," Hannah ordered. "Stay there until the all-clear sounds. You're the human caretaker. I'm a soldier. Now move." She didn't wait to see if they obeyed. The command center was 3 sections up and 2 forward. She had to keep moving. The station shook continuously now. Explosions, breaches, the Scourge ships were tearing the station apart piece by piece. Hannah could feel the structure failing. They had maybe an hour before critical systems gave out. Maybe less. She reached a stairwell and started climbing. 2 flights up, she encountered a group of station security trying to hold a position. They were losing. 3 were already dead. The rest were panicking, firing wildly at creatures that used the darkness and narrow spaces to their advantage. Hannah took in the situation instantly. "Cease fire. You're wasting power." "Who the hell are you?" one of them demanded. "Someone who knows how to fight these things. Cease fire and listen to me." Maybe it was her tone. Maybe it was desperation. "They stopped shooting. They hunt by heat and movement," Hannah said quickly. "Concentrated fire draws them like magnets. Spread out. Use single shots. Aim for the heads. Conserve ammunition. Use the environment seal doors behind you, vent atmosphere to freeze them. Cut power to darken corridors so they can't track you as easily." "That's not in our protocols." "Your protocols were written by people who never fought the Scourge." "I have. Now either follow my lead or die here. Choose fast." A creature burst from a side passage. Hannah dropped it with a single shot. The security officers looked at each other, then at her. "We follow you," their leader said. Together they fought their way up. Hannah led, calling targets, directing fire, using every trick she had learned in the war. The security officers followed her commands without question now. They had seen her in action. They understood. The command center doors were sealed when they arrived. Hannah pounded on them. "Open up. Security detail with reinforcements." The doors opened a crack. Eyes peered out. Then they opened wider and Hannah pushed through, her security team following. The command center was chaos. Officers shouted over each other. Screens showed red alerts across every system. Administrator Krellick stood frozen by the main console, its crystalline body reflecting the emergency lights in 1,000 panicked colors. Commander Voss lay dead near the door, his reptilian body torn open by Scourge claws. Blood pooled around him. No one had even moved his body. They were too busy arguing about what to do. "We need to evacuate," someone shouted. "The escape pods are nearly gone." Another replied. "Divert all power to weapons." "No, to shields." "Call for reinforcements. They won't arrive in time." Hannah walked to the center of the room and fired her rifle into the ceiling. The blast silenced everyone. All eyes turned to her. "Who's in command here?" She demanded. I am the administrator. Krellick stammered. "Military command." "Who has military authority?" "Commander Voss was, but he's dead. I can see that." "Who's second in command?" A thin insectoid officer raised one claw. "I am Subcommander Tick, but I don't know what to do." The Scourge are everywhere. We're losing. Not yet, you're not, Hannah said. She moved to the main tactical console. I need full system access, now. You're a civilian, someone protested. You can't. I'm Captain Hannah Kim. Earth Defense Force, I have 7 ship engagements and 3 ground campaigns against the Scourge specifically. I know how they think. I know how they fight. And I know how to beat them. Now give me access or we all die. Your choice. The officers looked at each other. At Administrator Krelix. At Subcommander Tick, no one moved. Then a young voice spoke from a corner workstation. I'm giving her access. Hannah turned. A young human male sat at a communications console. He couldn't be older than 20. His name tag read Tay. You're human, Krelix said. You're just a junior communications officer, ... And she's a captain, Tay said firmly. He pressed buttons on his console. Captain Kim, you have full system access. All yours. Hannah nodded to him. Then she turned to the tactical display and got to work. The Scourge coordinate through chemical pheromones, she said, her fingers flying across the controls. They're like insects. Individual creatures are dangerous but manageable. The hive mind makes them lethal. But that's also their weakness. Disrupt the communication and they become confused. How do we disrupt it? Tick asked. Station atmosphere processors. Cycle them to maximum. Change the air composition rapidly, add nitrogen, remove it, add carbon dioxide, remove it. Create atmospheric chaos. Their chemical signals will break down. That's not standard procedure. Standard procedure is dying. My procedure is surviving. Do it. Tick hesitated, then gave the order. Within seconds, the atmosphere processors began cycling. On the screens, they could see the effect. Scourge creatures began moving erratically. Some attacked each other. The coordinated assault faltered. Weapons, Hannah continued. Stop spreading fire across multiple targets. The Scourge regenerate from minor damage. Concentrate all weapons on single targets. Burn them down completely before moving to the next. And someone redirect power from the forward shields. They're already breached. Put it all into rear shields to protect the reactor. That will leave the docking bay exposed. The docking bay is already compromised. The reactor is what's keeping us alive. Protect it. The officers began following her orders. Some reluctantly. Some with growing confidence. They watched the screens as Scourge assault patterns broke down. As concentrated fire began destroying enemy ships one by one instead of merely damaging many. As power flowed to critical systems instead of being wasted on lost positions. Internal defenses, Hannah said. Seal off invaded sections. Don't try to retake them. Vent atmosphere to vacuum where the Scourge are thickest. Freeze them. Then send security teams to clean up what's left. We have people trapped in those sections. And they're already dead if we don't act. Seal it, vent it. Save the sections we can still hold. It was brutal. It was efficient. It was working. For 2 hours, Hannah commanded the defense. She was everywhere at once, monitoring screens, giving orders, coordinating teams, adjusting tactics as the Scourge adapted. The alien officers stopped questioning her. They simply obeyed. Young Tay provided perfect support, routing communications, managing data feeds, anticipating what she needed before she asked. He had been watching her since she arrived on the station. He had seen what others missed. Slowly, impossibly, the tide turned. The Scourge ships began pulling back. Their ground forces were cut off and destroyed. The station's shields held. The reactor stayed online. People stopped dying. When coalition reinforcements finally arrived, they found Station Meridian 7 battered but intact. The first station to survive a full Scourge assault. In the command center, Hannah finally lowered the rifle she had been holding for hours. Her hands shook slightly, adrenaline wearing off. She was so tired. Administrator Krelix approached her slowly. Its crystalline body had lost its panicked shimmer. Now it just looked tired and ashamed. We called you Caretaker, it said quietly. We were ... corrected. Hannah looked at the alien, at all the officers who had dismissed her, mocked her, ignored her warnings. She could have been angry. She could have said, "I told you so." She could have made them feel small the way they had made her feel small. Instead, she just nodded. "Yes, you were." Sub-Commander Tick stepped forward. "Captain Kim, on behalf of Station Meridian 7, thank you. You saved us." "All of us. That's what captains do," Hannah said simply. Her communicator chirped. A message from the rescue ships. The escape pods had been recovered. All 43 children accounted for. All safe. All asking when they could see their captain. Hannah smiled. Her cubs were safe. That was all that mattered. Everything else was just finishing the job. The alarms cut through the morning like knives, sharp, urgent, impossible to ignore. Hannah was already moving before the first siren finished its cycle. She had been dressed for hours waiting. Cubs, formation Delta. Now, the children erupted from their bunks without hesitation. No confusion, no panic. They had drilled for this. Older children helped younger ones dress. They grabbed their emergency bags, small packs Hannah had made them prepare, filled with water, nutrition bars, basic medical supplies, and flashlights. 30 seconds, that was all it took. 43 children standing in perfect formation, ready to move through the walls. Hannah could hear chaos erupting across the station, screaming, running footsteps, confused voices demanding answers. The intercom crackled with overlapping emergency announcements. All residents proceed to designated safe zones. This is not a drill. Unknown hostile forces detected. Military personnel report to battle stations immediately. Unknown hostile forces? They didn't even know what was hitting them. Hannah felt a grim satisfaction mixed with fear. She had been right, but being right meant people were dying. "Listen to me," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "Everything we practiced, everything we learned, this is it. Stay together, follow orders, watch each other's backs. And remember, cubs don't panic. Cubs survive." "Cubs survive," they echoed. Hannah moved to the door and checked the corridor. Already she could see people running in all directions. No organization, no discipline. Fear made them stupid. She had seen it before on Terraform Colony. Panic killed faster than any enemy. "Move out. Day, take rear position. Hyen, Quan, flanks. Everyone else stay in formation. We're heading for Escape Pod Bay 7. Why 7? Mena asked as they started moving. "Closest to our position. Least traffic from other sections. Most likely to still have available pods." They moved through the corridors like a school of fish, flowing around obstacles, staying tight together. Other residents saw them, and some tried to grab the children, thinking to help them. Hannah blocked each attempt. "They're with me. Keep moving." A bulkhead door ahead began to close an automatic safety response. "Double time," Hannah commanded. The children ran faster, sliding through the narrowing gap just before it sealed. Behind them, a group of alien civilians reached the door too late, pounding on it in frustration. The station shook. Somewhere above them, something exploded. Lights flickered. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. "Steady," Hannah said. "Keep moving." They passed a viewport and Suji gasped. Outside, organic ships swarmed the station like insects on a corpse. They were dark and twisted, grown rather than built, pulsing with sickly bioluminescence, scourge vessels. Hannah had seen them before. She still had nightmares. "Don't look," she ordered. "Eyes forward, trust me to guide you." Another explosion, closer now. The floor tilted. Yuna stumbled, but Jin caught her arm, keeping her upright. They kept moving. They reached Escape Pod Bay 7 to find it in chaos. Dozens of people crowded around the pods, shoving and fighting. A Vorathi security officer tried to maintain order, but was being ignored. The pod launch system was locked. Someone had engaged safety protocols to prevent premature evacuation. Hannah assessed the situation in seconds. The control panel was across the bay, past the mob. Getting there would be difficult. Getting there with 43 children would be impossible. "Formation Epsilon," she said quietly. The children shifted positions, creating a protective circle with the youngest in the center. Wait here. Do not move unless I give the signal. Captain, Day started to protest. That's an order, soldier. Hannah moved through the crowd with purpose. She wasn't large, but she moved like someone who knew how to use small spaces. She slipped between bodies, ducked under flailing arms, and emerged at the control panel. The security officer saw her. You, civilian, get back with the others. This system is locked, Hannah said, ignoring the order. Override code is probably command level only, but there's a manual release for emergencies. Right here, she pointed to a panel on the wall. The officer blinked. How do you know? Doesn't matter. Pop that panel. Use the manual release. Get these people off the station. Another explosion rocked the bay. Screaming intensified. The officer made a decision and pulled open the panel. Inside was a simple lever with a protective cover. The officer hesitated. Manual release means pods launch automatically. Randomly assigned, families will be separated. Separated and alive beats together and dead, Hannah said. Pull the lever. The officer pulled it. Immediately, pod doors began opening. The computer system started assigning people automatically, cutting through the chaos with cold efficiency. Groups were pulled apart and pushed into pods. Children separated from parents. Friends torn from friends. The mob surged toward the opening doors. Hannah was nearly crushed against the wall. She fought her way back toward her cubs, but the press of bodies was too thick. A massive crustacean species knocked her aside without noticing. She hit the floor hard. Through the forest of legs and alien limbs, she saw her children. They stood in perfect formation, unmoved by the chaos around them, waiting for her order. Waiting for her, she tried to stand but was knocked down again. The station shook violently. Somewhere close by, atmosphere vented with a shrieking roar. Several people were sucked toward the breach before emergency bulkheads. Slam shut. Time was running out. Hannah pulled herself up using someone's leg for support. She couldn't reach her cubs. The crowd was too thick. But they could see her. That was enough. She raised her hand and made the signal. Go, get to the pods. Save yourselves. Day shook his head. No, not without you. Hannah made the signal again, sharper. That's an order. Day's face twisted with conflict. Then he nodded. He turned to the others and gave commands Hannah couldn't hear over the noise. The children moved as one unit, flowing toward the nearest open pod door. Older children carried younger ones. They helped each other up into the pod, efficient, disciplined, perfect. At the pod door, Day looked back one last time. Hannah could see tears on his face. She gave him a salute. He returned it. Then he climbed into the pod and the door sealed shut. Hannah watched the pod launch through the bay's force field, shooting away from the dying station. 43 children, all safe, all alive. That was what mattered. She had done her job, now she could do the rest of it. The bay was nearly empty now, most pods were gone. The security officer stood by the control panel, looking lost. Hannah walked over to him. You did good, she said. You saved a lot of people. The children, the officer said, the human cubs. They moved so, they were so calm. How? Training, Hannah said simply. Now, where's the command center? What? The command center. Where's it located? I need to get there. It's 3 sections up and 2 sections forward. But you can't, you're a civilian, not anymore, Hannah said. She pulled off her civilian jacket, revealing her Earth Defense Force uniform underneath. She had been wearing it this whole time, hidden, waiting. Captain Hannah Kim, Earth Defense Force. And I'm about to save this station. She started walking toward the exit. The security officer called after her. You can't go out there. The Scourge are in the corridors. Hannah stopped at the doorway. She found a weapons locker, forced it open, and pulled out a standard Coalition energy rifle. She checked the charge. Full. Good, I know, she said. I've fought them before. She stepped into the corridor where the screaming was loudest. The security officer watched her go. This small human woman walking calmly toward horror with a rifle in her hands and absolute determination in her eyes. Later, he would tell people what he saw. He would say it was like watching someone go home. Not to safety, but to a place they understood, a place where they belonged. He would say he finally understood why the children called her captain. She walked into the chaos like it was just another day at work. Because for Captain Hannah Kim, it was. Hannah found the final piece of the puzzle on the 8th day. She had been spending her nights in the station's public library, a vast digital repository accessible to all residents. Most of what she needed was classified, locked behind security protocols she couldn't breach. But public records told their own story if you knew how to read them. She cross-referenced mineral survey reports with attack dates. She compared energy output readings with casualty numbers. She studied station layouts and defense configurations. The pattern became clearer with each passing hour. The Scourge weren't just attacking randomly. They were harvesting. Each target had deposits of rare elements the creatures needed for their biological ships. Each station had specific power signatures that indicated certain technologies. The Scourge were collecting resources, building their strength, preparing for something bigger. Meridian-7 had everything they wanted. Rich asteroid fields nearby with the exact minerals from previous attack sites. A massive fusion reactor with the precise energy signature the Scourge seemed to prefer. Advanced communication arrays built with rare components. The station was a target. And based on the timing pattern, the attack would come in less than 72 hours. At morning formation, Hannah studied her cubs. They looked healthier now after a week of regular meals. Color had returned to their faces. Some had even started to smile again. She hated what she had to tell them. 3 days, she said quietly. Maybe less? We need to be ready. The children didn't panic. They had learned that panic was useless. Day nodded slowly. What's the plan, Captain? Same as before. We survive. We protect each other. And if I'm right about this, when I'm right about this, we help everyone else survive too. Even though they won't listen to you? Maina asked. Especially because they won't listen. That's when leaders matter most, when everyone else is wrong. After breakfast, Hannah requested another meeting with Station Command. The request was denied. She submitted a second detailed report, this one with even more data. She marked it critical priority. She highlighted the pattern, showed her calculations, explained the threat timeline. 12 hours later, she received a response from a low-level administrative assistant. Dear Caretaker Kim, thank you for your continued concern about station safety. Your worry for your charges is commendable. However, military threat assessment is handled by trained specialists with advanced predictive algorithms. Station Meridian-7's defense status is regularly evaluated by coalition experts. Please focus on the welfare of your young ones and leave security matters to the professionals. If you continue to experience anxiety about these issues, we recommend speaking with a counselor. Station mental health services are available at no cost. Hannah read the message 3 times. Then she laughed, though there was no humor in it. Hyen, who was studying nearby, looked up. They still won't listen? No, they think I'm having a breakdown. They think I'm seeing threats that don't exist because I'm traumatized. Are you? Hyen asked seriously. I mean, we all saw terrible things. Maybe I'm not wrong, Hannah said firmly. The math doesn't lie. The pattern is real. But they can't see past what they think they know about humans. So what do? We prepare anyway. Come on. I need to teach you something new today. That afternoon, Hannah took the children on what she called an educational tour. They visited the emergency equipment stations, where she showed them how to use emergency atmosphere masks. She demonstrated how to activate emergency bulkhead seals. She taught them the difference between a fire alarm and an attack warning. Station security officer found them at the 3rd equipment station. It was a tall, thin being with too many joints in its arms. What are you doing? It demanded. Teaching my cubs about safety protocols, Hannah said calmly. All residents should know emergency procedures. You are frightening them, making them paranoid. This is not healthy for young minds. What's not healthy is being unprepared for emergencies. Every being on this station should know how to respond to threats. There are no threats here. Meridian 7 is one of the safest stations in the sector. You are teaching these children to be afraid of nothing. I'm teaching them to be ready for anything. There's a difference. The officer made a sharp gesture. I am ordering you to stop. Return to your quarters. If you continue this behavior, we will be forced to separate you from these children for their own protection. The children moved closer to Hannah instinctively. Little Suji grabbed her hand. Day stepped forward, his young face hard. You can't separate us from our captain, he said. Your caretaker, the officer corrected. And yes, we can if she's causing psychological harm. She's not our caretaker, Yuna said loudly. She's Captain Hannah Kim of the Earth Defense Force. She has 7 ship engagements and 3 ground campaigns and 2 medals of valor. And she evacuated 600 people when our colony was destroyed. Other people in the corridor had stopped to watch the confrontation. The security officer's skin flushed a dark color that might have meant embarrassment or anger. That is a very creative story, it said. But it's not a story, Quan interrupted. It's her service record. You can look it up. She submitted it with her station registration, which was filed in civilian records, the officer said. Because she is a civilian. Now, all of you return to your quarters immediately, or I will call for backup. Hannah squeezed Sugi's hand gently, then released it. Cubs, go back to quarters. Formation Delta. The children obeyed reluctantly, forming their practice lines and marching away. They looked back once, worried, but Hannah gave them a small nod. It's okay. Go. When they were gone, she faced the security officer. I need to speak with Commander Voss. It's urgent. The commander does not meet with civilians without appointments, especially not civilians who are causing disturbances. In 3 days, this station will be attacked by the Scourge. Hundreds, maybe thousands will die if we're not prepared. I need to speak with someone in command, now. The officer stared at her. You are having a psychological crisis. I will arrange for medical evaluation. I am not having a crisis. I'm trying to save lives. By scaring children? By making wild predictions about attacks? By disrupting station order? The officer shook its head. You humans are too emotional. Your trauma makes you see danger everywhere. This is why you are not suited for security roles. You cannot separate fear from fact. Hannah felt something cold settle in her chest. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even frustration anymore. It was acceptance. They would never listen. Not until it was too late. Fine, she said quietly. I'll return to my quarters. I'll keep my cubs away from emergency equipment. I apologize for the disturbance. The officer seemed surprised by her sudden compliance. Good, that is ... good, see that you do? And consider speaking with counseling services. There is no shame in asking for help. Hannah walked back to her quarters with her head high and her shoulders straight. Other residents watched her pass. She heard whispers. Some were sympathetic. Most were dismissive. The crazy human caretaker who sees threats that don't exist. Let them think that. Let them believe she was traumatized, paranoid, broken. It didn't matter what they believed. It only mattered what she knew. When she reached her quarters, the children were waiting in formation. Their faces were tight with worry. New plan, Hannah said. We can't use official emergency equipment without attracting attention. So we improvise. Day, what tools do we have access to as civilians? Food synthesizers, cleaning supplies, personal electronics, recreational equipment, he listed. Good. All of those can be useful in an emergency. Tonight, we practice emergency evacuations using only what we have in these quarters. We create our own masks from fabric. We make our own seals using tape and plastic. We learn to navigate without lights using only touch. We become self-sufficient. What if we're wrong? Yuna asked quietly. What if the attack doesn't come? What if you're wrong about the pattern? Hannah knelt down to meet the girl's eyes. Then I look foolish and everyone says, I told you so, and life goes on. But if I'm right and we're not ready? People die. You die. I die. Everyone on this station dies. I'd rather be wrong and look foolish than be right and be unprepared. We trust you, Captain, Day said, and the others echoed him. I know you do, Hannah said softly. I just wish anyone else did too. That night, while the station slept in false security, Hannah drilled her cubs on survival procedures. They practiced in darkness. They practiced in silence. They practiced until every movement was automatic, until every child could navigate their assigned route without thinking. 2 days left. Then the station went about its business. People worked and ate and laughed and slept. Ships came and went. Life continued as normal. Hannah didn't sleep at all the final night. She stood at her window, watching the stars, waiting. The children slept in their bunks, trusting her to keep watch. At dawn on the third day, the alarms began to scream. The scourge had arrived. The alarm chimed at the 6th hour, just before station dawn cycle. Hannah was already awake. She had been awake for 30 minutes, reviewing data on a borrowed tablet. Old habits from the war never faded. Sleep light. Wake early. Stay alert. The children rose without complaint, moving through their morning routine with military precision. They took turns in the small bathroom. They made their bunks with hospital corners. They assembled in the common room for morning formation. Good morning, Captain, they said in unison. Good morning, Cubs, Hannah replied. Today we start our new normal. Breakfast, then education, then physical training. Understood? Yes, Captain. The station's cafeteria was a vast space filled with dozens of alien species. The ceiling stretched 30 feet high to accommodate the tallest residents. Long tables ran in organized rows. Food synthesizers lined one entire wall, programmed with thousands of species-specific meals. Hannah led her group to an empty table. They moved in tight formation, older children helping younger ones carry trays. Other species watched them with curiosity. Some pointed. Some made sounds that might have been comments. An avian species at a nearby table chirped loudly at its companion. Look at the human cubs. So organized. Like little soldiers playing pretend. Day's hand tightened on his fork, but Hannah touched his shoulder lightly. Easy. Not worth it. After breakfast, they returned to their quarters. Hannah had arranged the common room into a classroom. She taught mathematics using real problems, calculating oxygen consumption rates, computing trajectory angles, converting between alien measurement systems. She taught literature by reading from the few books she had managed to save from Earth. She taught history by telling them about their own world, their own people, their own wars. At the 10th hour, a station security officer appeared at their door. It was a blob-like creature that communicated through color changes on its translucent skin. The translator rendered its flashing patterns as speech. There have been complaints. Your young ones are too loud during rest hours. We maintain quiet hours from 22nd hour to 6th hour, Hannah said. We have violated no regulations. The complaint says you are running military drills, teaching combat techniques to children. This is ... concerning. We do morning exercises. Physical fitness. It keeps them healthy. The security officer's color shifted to deep purple. The translator said this meant suspicion. You will stop these activities. You are civilians now? Act like civilians. After it left, Hyen kicked the wall. They won't even let us exercise? They didn't say we couldn't exercise, Hannah pointed out. They said stop military drills? So we'll call it dance class. Or sports or games. We changed the name, not the activity. Young Yuna raised her hand. Captain, why do they treat us like this? Why do they think we're stupid? Hannah sat down on the floor so she was eye level with the girl. They don't think we're stupid. They think we're weak. There's a difference. In their minds, humans are small and soft. We cry easily. We care too much. We're not built for war like they are. They look at you and see babies who need protection. They look at me and see a mother playing soldier. But that's wrong, Mina said fiercely. You're a real captain. You saved us. You fought the scourge. I know. And you know, but they haven't seen it yet. They've only heard stories and they don't believe our stories. So we wait, we prepare. And when the moment comes, we show them the truth. The afternoon brought a visit to the education center. A kindly amphibious being named Wella ran the facility. It smiled at the children with a mouth full of small, blunt teeth. Welcome, welcome. Human cubs are so rare here. We are delighted to have you. Now, who wants to make art? Suji, the youngest, stepped forward. Excuse me, ma'am. Do you have tactical simulation programs? Or engineering software? Or xenobiology databases? Well, a smile faltered. Those are advanced topics. You are children. We have drawing programs, story games, music makers. We can already do those things, Day said politely. We're looking for real education. This is real education, Wella insisted. Age-appropriate learning through play. Your caretaker should have explained this. Our captain explained that education is always important, Hyon said, and that we should never stop learning. Your captain? Wella looked confused. Oh, you mean your caretaker. How sweet that you have a title for her. Yes, yes, she takes good care of you, I'm sure. The children exchanged glances but said nothing more. There was no point. The adults had decided what to believe. That evening, Hana accessed the station's public data networks. She searched for military reports about the scourge. Most were classified, but there were enough public summaries to show her what she needed to see. The scourge had hit 17 targets in the past 6 months. At first, the attacks seemed random, but Hana had learned pattern recognition in the Defense Force. She started mapping the targets against resource profiles. Population densities, strategic positions, a pattern emerged. The scourge wasn't random. They were systematic. Each target had specific characteristics, certain minerals in nearby asteroids, particular energy signatures, specific types of communication arrays. They were hunting something, or building towards something. Hannah pulled up Meridian 7's profile. Her blood ran cold. Perfect match. She spent the next 2 hours checking her calculations, running different models, testing alternative theories. Every scenario came back the same. Station Meridian 7 fit the Scourge's target profile exactly. Based on the timing of previous attacks, they would arrive within days. Maybe a week at most. She needed to warn someone. She composed a detailed report outlining her findings. She included all her data, her methodology, her conclusions. She submitted it through the proper military channels, marking it urgent. The next morning she received a response. Her report had been filed under civilian observations and forwarded to the Social Services Department. A note suggested she might be experiencing trauma-related anxiety and offered counseling services. Hannah stared at the message for a long moment. Then she deleted it and moved on. She had tried official channels. Now she would do what she always did, prepare her people for the worst. Cubs, she said at their morning assembly. New training schedule starts today. We're going to learn every route through this station, every exit, every emergency system. We're going to memorize it like we memorized the alphabet. Why? Jin asked. Because knowing your environment is the first rule of survival. And because I said so. They spent the week mapping the station during their free time. Hannah turned it into a game, races to find specific locations, scavenger hunts for emergency equipment, contests to see who could draw the most accurate maps. Other species saw human children playing. Hannah saw soldiers learning terrain. She taught them how to identify different types of bulkhead doors, how to operate emergency atmosphere controls, how to recognize escape pod access points. She disguised it all as educational games, harmless activities to keep traumatized children occupied. On the 5th day, Quan asked the question she had been waiting for. Captain, you're preparing us for something. What is it? The other children stopped their activities and turned to face her. They deserved honesty. They had earned that much. The scourge is coming, she said simply. The station doesn't believe me. They won't listen. But you cubs know me. You know I'm not wrong? So we prepare, quietly, carefully, and when the moment arrives, we'll be ready. What about everyone else? Yuna asked. What about all the other people on the station? Hannah met the girl's eyes. We'll save them too. Whether they like it or not, whether they believe in us or not. Because that's what we do. We survive, and we help others survive. Even though they're mean to us? Little Suji asked. Especially then, Hannah said. Because being strong isn't about being the biggest or the toughest. It's about doing what's right when it's hard. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. Even if those people think they don't need protection. They stood at attention. We're with you, Captain. Whatever comes. The others echoed him. Whatever comes. Hannah looked at her cubs, her crew, her family, her responsibility. They had lost everything. They had every reason to be bitter, to be afraid, to give up. Instead, they stood ready to fight for people who dismissed them. That was humanity's real strength. Not size or weapons or technology. It was this, the ability to care even when caring hurt. The determination to keep going when giving up was easier. The aliens called them weak for these traits. They were wrong. And soon they would understand just how wrong they were. The transport ship docked with a heavy clang that echoed through the metal corridors of Station Meridian 7. Hannah Kim stood at the airlock. Her Earth Defense Force uniform crisp despite the 3-week journey. Behind her, 43 children waited in perfect lines. The youngest was 4 years old. The oldest was 15. All of them had lost everything. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Hannah stepped through first, her boots striking the station floor with purpose. The children followed, moving in organized rows just as she had taught them. They carried small bags with their few possessions. None of them cried. None of them complained. They had learned that tears didn't bring back the dead. A crystalline being approached them, its body reflecting the harsh station lights in 1,000 directions. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, its form angular and sharp. This was Administrator Krelix, the station's highest authority. Beside it walked a reptilian creature covered in dark green scales, its yellow eyes cold and assessing. Commander Voss controlled all military operations on the station. Welcome to Meridian 7, Krelix said through a translation device that hung in the air. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. We have prepared quarters for the human refugees. Hannah saluted, her movement precise. Captain Hannah Kim of the Earth Defense Force, reporting with 43 survivors from Terraform Colony. The translator made a strange, warbling sound. Krelix tilted its crystalline head. Yes, yes. The caretaker of the young ones. We understand. This must be difficult for you. I am not a caretaker, Hannah said clearly. I am a military officer with the rank of captain. These children are under my command and protection. Commander Voss made a sound that might have been a laugh. Your species has interesting customs. It is natural for you to form strong bonds with your young. We will not separate you from them. Hannah felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice level. With respect, Commander, I am requesting a briefing on current threat assessments. The Scourge destroyed my colony. I need to know the tactical situation. The war is not your concern, little caretaker, Voss said, his tone almost gentle. Your duty now is to these cubs. Let warriors handle war. Behind Hannah, she heard young Day shift his weight. She raised one hand slightly, a signal the children knew. Stay calm, stay quiet. Day went still. I am a warrior, Hannah said. I have 7 ship engagements on my record. I led ground campaigns on 3 worlds. I evacuated 600 civilians under enemy fire before Terraform Colony fell. Krelix made a sound like breaking glass. The translator rendered it as laughter. How charming. Your people tell such creative stories. Come, we have assigned you quarters in the civilian sector. The young ones will need proper care. A security officer approached, a 4-armed insectoid creature that clicked as it moved. It handed Krelix a data pad. The administrator glanced at it, then back at Hannah. Your accommodations are in Section C7. It is near the Education Center and recreational facilities. Very suitable for young ones. We will need access to training facilities, Hannah said. Physical fitness programs, tactical simulators, emergency protocol education. The human believes her cubs need military training. Voss interrupted, his scales rippling with what looked like amusement. How ... endearing. Your protective instincts are admirable, Caretaker, but these children have been through enough. Let them be children. They are survivors, Hannah replied, her voice harder now. And I am their commanding officer. Of course you are, Krellick said in a tone one might use with a confused child. Come, we will show you to your new home. The walk through the station took 20 minutes. Hannah memorized every turn, every corridor, every emergency bulkhead. She noted the positions of life support controls and escape pod bays. She observed the security patrols too spread out, too relaxed. The station felt safe, but safety bred complacency. The quarters were cramped. 5 small rooms connected to a common area. 44 people would share these spaces. Hannah had lived in worse conditions during the war. But these children deserved better. This will suffice, she said, not because it would, but because arguing was pointless right now. Excellent, Krellick said. A nutrition allowance has been loaded to your civilian account. The education center opens at the 8th hour. If you need anything, contact social services. After the aliens left, Hannah stood in the center of the common room. The children gathered around her without being asked. They knew the drill, status report, she said quietly. All cubs accounted for, Captain, Day said. At 15, he was her second in command, though no one else would recognize him as such. No injuries? Minimal fatigue. Good, Yuna. What did you observe during our walk here? The 10-year-old girl stepped forward. 3 emergency exits on our route. 2 security checkpoints, both lightly manned. Station defense grid visible through observation port's older model, maybe 15 years outdated. Jin, Mina? The 8-year-old twins spoke in turn. 4 different alien species on security detail, Jin said. No humans in uniform anywhere, Mina added. They don't trust us with weapons. They don't trust us at all, 12-year-old Hyun said bitterly. Did you hear how they talked to you, Captain? Like you were nothing. They talk to me like they see me, Hannah corrected gently. Small, female, human, surrounded by children. They made assumptions based on their expectations. That's their weakness, not ours. So what do we do? Day asked. Hannah looked at each face in the circle. These children had survived the scourge. They had watched their families die. They had run through burning streets while alien monsters hunted them. She had found them in the ruins, had gathered them up, had gotten them off-world when everyone else said it was impossible. They called her captain because she had earned it. Because when the world ended, she had been the one who stood between them and death. We survive, she said simply. We adapt. We learn this station inside and out. We maintain our training and our discipline. And when the time comes, we show them what humans are really capable of. When what time comes? Little Suji asked, her 6-year-old voice small but steady. Hannah knelt down to meet the girl's eyes. When they need us, cub. And they will need us. The scourge doesn't stop. The scourge doesn't give up. And this station has no idea what's coming. Later that night, after the children were settled into their cramped bunks, Hannah stood at the single window in her room. The stars beyond the station gleamed cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the scourge was moving, consuming, destroying. She had studied them. She had fought them. She knew their patterns, and she knew with absolute certainty that Meridian 7 was next. Tomorrow, she would try official channels. She would submit reports and request meetings. She would follow proper procedure because that was what captains did. But she already knew what would happen. They would dismiss her again. File her warnings under civilian concerns. Pat her head and tell her to tend her cubs. That was fine. She had learned long ago that respect was earned through actions, not words. When the scourge came and they would come, she would be ready. Her cubs would be ready. They called her Caretaker. Soon, they would learn the truth. They would learn it in fire and blood and survival. They would learn it when she saved every life on this station, whether those lives appreciated her or not, because that was what captains did.